Hi, everybody. I'm Tyler Lotz, and it's my pleasure to participate in Artaxis conversations on the topic of industry. I'm a professor teaching ceramics at Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois. My studio practice traverses between sculpture and the design and production of utilitarian forms. In this brief talk, I will dip back into various points from throughout the last 20 years. The theme of this Artaxis conversation, industry, can be thought of in many ways, although it's probably the aspect of design and production that most resonates across both bodies of my work. A common thread in the aesthetics and content of my work has been the multiple. Sculptural and utilitarian works from grad school and throughout my early career have always employed the multiple, whether the parts are reproduced faithfully and accurately through slip casting, or through hand forming and extruding, as in this more recent piece. Here I was thinking about the idea of phototropism, or the way that certain plants follow the light to maximize its exposure. These satellite dish-like forms could be repositioned depending on the location that it was installed. And here I was thinking about the idea of cloud seeding, or the manipulation of weather to produce a desired result. The bolts in these pieces were a way of pointing at the human habit of asserting our dominance over nature. It's a fool's errand in some respects, and a terrifying and perhaps necessary reality in others. In a cold ideal, I was thinking of a replacement landscape, designed through the tessellation of forms. This replacement scape is one that bears the mark of human intervention, taking cues from the ways forms interact in nature, and manufacturing a new landscape to replace something that we already screwed up ourselves. In 2010, I spent a few weeks working in a factory in southwest Poland as a part of a symposium called Porcelain Another Way. Being forced to use materials and processes outside of my comfort zone, I was inspired in many ways, aesthetically and in terms of production. Here I was using rejected porcelain plates and reconfiguring the factory decals to create my own images. The works I made when I returned to the States employed a new sense of composition. My color sensibilities expanded, and my experimentation with form and materials spiraled exhilaratingly out of control. But it was seeing the factory-made tableware, coupled with my own design skills and sensibilities, that sent me down a path of exploring utilitarian forms again. After designing these cup and bowl forms on paper and producing all the prototypes by hand, I went into production mode, casting them in various cone 6 bodies with several different glaze combinations. Inspired again, I decided to try developing forms in the digital space using CAD software and output processes like 3D printing, and in this case, the CNC mill. My work has more often than not been mixed media, although this process made me fall in love with ceramics materials once again. The factory reminded me that you can fire high and add low fire color later, even spraying underglaze over top of previously fired cone 6 glaze, and then refiring. We get so set in our ways that we forget that you can do anything you want with ceramics, as long as it works. My work has always had something to do with land, at times stemming from a concern for the environmental impacts of human behavior, which I'm very much guilty of myself, and at other times longing for the experience of landscapes I've visited in my past. For almost 2 decades now, I've lived in the Midwestern United States, a landscape reshaped by industrialized farming of primarily corn and soybeans. Our town, like most in the Midwest, is built on the grid. At times, my work succumbs to this homogeneity with a monoculture of forms, but at other times it pushes back, asserting its own sense of self and determination. I want to thank you all for listening, and thank the Artaxis board for inviting me to share my work and thoughts today. Cheers, everybody.